Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Autism Mama Bear Talk. Today, I have a very special guest, uh, wonderful lady, Jeanette Fransen, ND, who is also a specialist on autism recovery, and she will share the story of her two children, her husband, and the whole family. I mean, it's amazing what she does in life to help others, to help the family. It's mind blowing. So, I would like to welcome my wonderful guest, Jeanette. Thank you for coming to
Thank-
my show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I'm just grateful to be able to share and hopefully, just through our story, help some other families that are just struggling with the same thing.
Yes.
So, it's just, there's just so many emotions and so many different things. It's hard to figure out what do I do. And
Oh,
so,
tell me about it. Yes.
right, there was a mom that sat down and she had one of her three kids, all three of them had autism. One of them had recovered, and she just said, here's what I did, and here's what I'm continuing to do. And I just forever think I'm just repaying that. So, anyway, just grateful for that woman. And I didn't even stay in touch with her. I actually met her like one time, and that was it. So, I don't know her name or anything, but I'm just forever grateful for her. So,
It's
anyway.
amazing. So, can you tell us how it all started? I mean, when did you hear the diagnosis, and how old are Lexi and Jackson?
They are, so now they're 13 and 12. Jackson's older.
Mhm.
Um, and he's the one that he still has autism. Lexi's totally 100% recovered. As far as I know, she's the youngest,
Mhm.
fastest child in the world to ever recover from autism. So she was diagnosed, they were both diagnosed within a very short period of time from each other. Um, they both also had regressive autism, which I think is just an important thing to note. They were not born autistic, they had
Mhm.
regressive autism. And a lot of people out there, you know, I think don't really realize that, oh, you're not born with this. Not all the time. In fact, most of the time it's regressive. So,
I'm
anyway,
wondering if you have a sound.
oh, can you not hear me?
I can hear you fine. I'm just worried that my broadcast doesn't have sound. Oops. Oh my. 1 second.
Okay, I'm going to go here and look as well.
Hmm. Can anybody hear us? It's good. Okay, sorry. False
Okay,
alarm.
okay.
False alarm. Wonderful. Sorry about that.
Good to know though.
Yes.
Um,
Please continue your story.
so they both slipped into autism really close to each other. Jackson first, and then within a short period of time, then Lexi followed. They were both really typical, um, and we got Jackson his first immunizations around 2 years old, and it was definitely a trigger. Although I think he was set up for that. Like I don't think he would have ever been as bad as he is, but he wasn't. There was, I think that he just with my own issues that I had health wise that I was not really totally aware of.
Right.
I think that probably helped. That probably set him up significantly after doing a lot of research. I had 14 silver fillings in my mouth. My dad was a dentist, so I played with mercury every day after school for probably a good 2 or 3 years. Not every day, most days though. So it's a really fun substance to play with if you've never played with it. I don't recommend it.
But
So
can you elaborate on mercury in our mouth? I mean, because people don't realize how dangerous the amalgam fillings are, and how toxic.
yeah, it actually, a lot of people know about lead, and lead leads to mental retardation and, lower IQ and things like that. A lot of people don't realize that mercury leads to a lot of the same things. And in Alice in Wonderland, there was the Mad Hatter. And if you go back and do some research, when they used to do the brim of the hat, they would use mercury in that, and it would actually make them crazy or make them go into psychosis. So that's, we used to treat, back in the day, that was like antibiotics, you give them antibiotics. It was mercury, or you would put something on it like Lewis and Clark, but it's that there's been a lot of deaths from that. And it does seep into the brain. Those heavy metals really tend to like fatty tissue, and so they really like brain tissue, especially on kids where they don't have what's called a blood-brain barrier yet. So it's a really tightly knit group of cells that come together that protect our brain against, things coming in. And sometimes when it does get formed, it makes it so things can't come out. So, if you do have the heavy metals, there's a way to test for all of that stuff, which I won't go into today. But I am excited because Jackson's, we've been doing heavy metal testing on him for years, and his test came back totally clean, hair, stool, blood, the whole thing, urine. So that was really exciting. We've done lots of cleanses and things like that. So that was exciting. So my firstborn was Jackson. So for all of you guys out there, your firstborn, about 80% of the mom's total burden goes into that firstborn. Yes. So a lot of times it's, your firstborn will be the most severe, and then the next one will be less severe. Oftentimes people wonder, why are there more boys that have autism than girls? There's more boys. Have you discussed this before on your show?
Not about why more boys than girls, no.
So there's more boys than girls because if you look at a petri dish, and I'll just give an example of something I saw, but on a petri dish, if you take aborted fetal tissue from both a baby boy and a baby girl, there's still live cells. You can still get live cells like that. And you put just a drop of mercury in the boy's brain tissue and a drop of mercury in the girl's brain tissue. On the boy's brain cells, 99.9% of them are going to explode within a few seconds. The girls, about 33% will explode. The reason is that little tiny bit of testosterone that they have and the estrogen, estrogen protects us women, and testosterone actually makes it worse for boys. So that's oftentimes where you see there's a lot more boys that have autism than girls. And same thing with, when they're going through puberty, all of a sudden, like all hell breaks loose because you're adding those extra hormones in, and it's making those toxins even worse. So anyway,
that makes sense.
We'll just rewind a little bit. So Jackson, I noticed him starting to have seizures, and I took him to a pediatrician, and anyway, they're like, it's because you had another baby. It was the stupidest things I've ever heard. Like, I look back and I'm thinking, what a dumb pediatrician. So I took him to another one, and finally we took him in. My sister was with me that day, and the doctor, he's a pediatric psychiatrist, and anyway, he was like, your kid he's MR, and I was like, mentally retarded? You're saying my son's mentally retarded? I was like, I can tell he's really smart though. Yeah. And he also said he also has autism. And I remember thinking, what's autism? And he looked at me and he said, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it? And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, you guys, I just want to tell you, I'm Italian. I have a little bit of a temper, and I lost my crap.
I would too. I'm European. I'm Polish.
I'm part Polish too. In fact, my dad was just in Poland a week ago.
There you go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yep.
So I think I'm a quarter. Anyway, so it was just really funny. My sister came in and she's like, we have to go. So she grabbed me and took me out. And I remember calling my dad. I was like, okay, what do I do for autism? What is autism?
Right.
He starts Googling, and he's like, no gluten. I'm like, I know what that is because I make my own whole wheat bread and I add extra gluten because it makes bread amazing. And he's like, no casein. I was like, what's casein? He's like, it's the protein in dairy. So anyway, we just started on our journey. We did a lot of different diets. So taking Jackson off of milk, oh my gosh. It was nothing short of like hell in our house. He wouldn't eat or drink anything for 3 days. So I did it with him. I was like, well, if he's going to do that, I guess I'll do that. And fast forward, a year later, and I have videos of him stilling his sister's green juice, in a bottle out of her hands. And it had cilantro in there, which cilantro helps get rid of heavy metals. So anyway, but he would go around and just pluck it out of her mouth and put his empty bottle in her mouth so she didn't cry. Anyway, we did gluten-free and dairy-free, and we actually did another IQ test about 3 months later, and his IQ jumped 17 points by just doing that. So it's interesting that, we're hearing a lot about, now about the gut-brain connection. This is 10 years ago, plus 10 plus years ago. So now we're hearing a lot about if you're taking care of your gut, it's really taking care of your brain. So we did a lot of different supplements, which definitely did help. Lexi recovered a lot quicker. So some of the things that we did for both of them, we did homeopathics. We actually did a lot of homeopathics, and we did herbs and essential oils. We slept in a hyperbarics chamber twice a day. Every day we got in one of those. At the time, I had been diagnosed with lupus and pretty severe rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia. So my kidneys and liver function were way, way, way down. So I was going through really, really huge struggles myself. My thyroid was really, really off. We figured out later that I had had a pituitary stroke when I had one of my kids. Can't actually remember because my memory isn't, 100% there. So anyway, I'd have to ask my husband. He would know. He would be able to tell me. Anyway, so it was cheaper for us to just go buy a hyperbarics chamber than it was to go to the doctor's office and, pay the whatever the rental was for every dive is what they call it. But that I think helped pretty tremendously for Lexi. I don't think it necessarily helped a ton for Jackson, but I do think it dropped his inflammation. Most kids on the spectrum, if you were to look at, there's 30,000+ SPECT scans out there, which a SPECT scan is. It's a 3D MRI. I'm sure you know what it is, but for some of the listeners, they might not know, but it's a 3D MRI that's colorful of your brain. So you can see all the areas of your brain, and you can kind of move it and everything. So it's really a cool thing. You can see what areas are maybe dim or damaged. And I remember looking at some of these kids, and they looked like the same brain as a heroin addict, a 15-year heroin addict. So holes in their brains, a lot of dark, a lot of gray matter. And a lot of people think you can't do anything about that gray matter, but you can. And a lot of people don't realize there's an enormous amount of inflammation in their brains. And sometimes Jackson actually has an autoimmune to the inner lining of his blood vessels in his brain. So there's things.
What were the symptoms that Jackson showed?
He was headbanging a lot. He would just come up and headbang. He would come up and act like he was going to give me a hug, and then just boom and give me a bloody nose or a fat lip, and I got scar tissue pretty much everywhere in my face. Right. He was extremely, extremely violent. I have scars on my chest from him biting me. I just remember the doctor actually gave me 5 different scripts that same day for different antipsychotics, and told me, if you want to be a good mom, you'll go get yourself on some antidepressants. And not to say I wasn't depressed, I was much more angry than I was depressed. And I took that anger and I just funneled it into what am I going to go do to help my family get out of this horrible health crisis, right? I mean, there were days I couldn't walk. There were days where, my mom came to live with us for 19 months. And my dad would come down every other weekend because they were married. They still are married. So they would kind of go back and forth, 12-hour drive. They were in Salt Lake City, and we lived in Phoenix. Then we moved to Sedona. We found out all the spraying in Phoenix was giving Jackson seizures. So we moved to Sedona. And that dropped his seizure count from 400 to 500 a day to probably 20 to 30 a day.
Oh my God.
Just the amount of spraying they were doing. We lived on a golf course, so they would spray constantly, and then they would spray all the ponds, for mosquitoes, that kind of stuff. So just that made a huge difference in my day. So some of the other things he would do, he would put a lot of pressure right here. He would come up to me and he would take my chin and push it right here on him. He would stand upside down on his head. So a lot of those behaviors, he would just sit there and bang himself in the head like this. So the hyperbarics definitely brought the inflammation down. Frankincense oil, if you take a drop and you put it on your thumb and put it on the roof of the mouth, you do have to get a good brand. This is actually a little tiny sample that I carry. It's in my purse at all times, but oftentimes I'll give Jackson like just a drop, and he knows it's going to go in the roof of the mouth and, go up there. It actually can pass through the blood-brain barrier. It's one of the very few substances that can actually pass through and then bring the inflammation down. Has really great anti-inflammatory properties. So, and through that, then I noticed the behavior changing, right? So autism is just a ton of different behaviors. And if we can figure out what's causing these behaviors, and most of the time I have figured out it's something medical and we need to handle the medical thing, right? Just like with someone that's, diabetic, we wouldn't like not give them insulin, right? And just be like, oh, well, you're a diabetic, so forget it, right? Oh, you're autistic, so just forget it. Anyway, so I have found with testing Lexi, we tested her heavy metals and parasites and all that stuff. And as I noticed, we got rid of, a parasite or a heavy metal, or the heavy metal would, like the whole overall heavy metal count would go down. I noticed, oh, this behavior is going away. I saw her going from like severely autistic to PDD, NOS to OCD, ADHD, all of these things to, her little body. She was 4 years old, and she also had failure to thrive. She had other stuff too, and she was 17 pounds. She looked like a starving child. Actually, I had CPS called on me.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what a picky eater means.
Right. So anyway, luckily I lived next door to an awesome police officer, and I would go check on his kids after school. He was single, and so I'd check on his kids after school every day, and they would come and check in. And anyway, but he just made that all go away. He went and talked to the judge. He's like, no. He's like, this woman, like, she does. He's like, there's no way. So anyway, but that went away. But he so one of the things that like helped with her little, her butt was like rock hard and was sticking out, even though her body was so skinny. Like I look back, I can't actually bring up any pictures without losing my stuff. I just bawl if I see her like that. But anyway, she, the hyperbarics, I think definitely helped bring down the inflammation, and homeopathics and some herbs that we were using at the time definitely brought that gut. It was gut dysbiosis. So
she's asking, leaky gut?
Yeah, leaky gut dysbiosis. Yep. So for everyone that doesn't know what that means, it's, if you have a lot of food sensitivities, which a lot of our kiddos do, and we keep giving them those foods, or they've had overuse of antibiotics or something like that, then in between their little alveoli that sticks up in their gut, it starts to form little cracks and crevices where now whole food proteins can get through and into the bloodstream. And now you can get an overgrowth of yeast in your gut. You can get parasites in there. And once you have those proteins floating around in the bloodstream, which, they shouldn't be, then we start getting, food sensitivities and food allergies. And it just collapses from there. Like the whole system, the whole body it's like the abyss. You're going down the rabbit hole and you just keep going and going and going. Yeah. So it takes a lot to fix it, but you can totally fix it. We went on a 4-day rotational diet, and we also did NAET. And so NAET is food allergy desensitization. I would highly recommend looking up a master at that. And then also doing the rotational diet helped a lot. So we would eat only, if it was a cruciferous vegetable. I can't even say that word, you guys.
Right. Yeah. All those good stuff. Yeah.
Cruciferous vegetable. You could only eat it on day 1. So you could have an artichoke, but then you couldn't have asparagus the next day, right? So it was a little difficult. Jackson had 30 something. I had 38. I think he had 34, and Lexi had like 32 different food sensitivities, something like that. So, and they were all the same. So I was like, oh my gosh, we're all going to starve here. I don't know how to do this, but we figured it out, made it work. And
how did you make those vegetables? I mean, I have such a hard time, convincing my kids to eat, to even try vegetables, especially Vivian, my daughter.
How old is she?
She is now 7. She's going to be 8 in July.
Okay, well, one thing, I started when my kids were really young, And so I think that definitely helped. Like Lexi and Jackson, I would give them like carrots when they were teething and celery, like really icy cold celery when they were teething. So I started them really young, and whatever you have in your palate or in your bloodstream, your palate will start to crave in the next 30 days. Mm-hmm. So my dad was a distributor, still is a distributor for Juice Plus, and did a bunch of research, and he started telling me, he's like, if you take this every day, it gets into the bloodstream, it's bioavailable, and your kids will start to want that a little bit more. And he came over to my house. He drove there from Salt Lake City to Phoenix, where we're at that time, and he threw away anything processed at all. And I didn't have a lot of processed food because we ate pretty good, but he still, like I had some stuff in my house, and he threw everything away. And
so
anyway,
nothing like that.
I had nothing. No, there was not a container in my house. And he just started juicing. And first he started juicing apple juice, which, is not the best thing in the world, like for candida and things like that. But it got my kids loving juice. Like my kids love juice. And then we started adding cucumbers, and then celery, and then spinach, and then, a little bit more greens. Like you'd take a spring mix, like, 2 or 3 pieces of spring mix and throw that in there, to the point where, in 6 months, my kids were drinking dandelion greens. And if you've never drank them, they're the most bitter, horrible thing ever. My sister came over and she's like, I think this is abuse, Jeanette. She's like, she was changing their kid's diaper. She's like, your kid's diaper is green. Their poop is green. It's so disgusting. This is horrible. So, but we just kept doing things like that. And anyway, I'm not perfect anymore. Like, I think you saw my Instagram story this morning. I woke up, I had terrible cramps. I put some oil on, and I have a huge thing of hot chocolate. You see how huge that is?
There you go.
It's ridiculous. But, I still, we live a little bit now. Like I didn't have chocolate in our house. Actually, it triggered migraines for me. So I went without chocolate for a long time. Maybe why I was so depressed. But anyway, we did that. We did Talks Up. Have you heard of this?
Mm-mm.
So this is, I think it works a lot better for kids that are a little bit higher functioning. So I noticed a lot more stuff from Lexi, and we did Jackson. And I'll just bring it out of this case, so just so you guys can see what it looks like. But this is what it is. You actually wear this, and it's for a certain period of time. I think 12 days on, 18 days off, typically like for 2 or 3 months. It takes, you go through a few sessions of it. My aunt adopted some kids from the Marshall Islands, and one of them was definitely very on the spectrum. It's called Talks Up. So you can Google it, look it up there. We did a whole interview of the president of the Hearing and Language Association for California, I think is what her title was. She runs a clinic up in like the Santa Rosa area in California, and we interviewed her on the autism on our autism summit that we did. So it's asdrecovery.com is where that summit's at. But this here is it's a little unit that you use, and they just listen to different. It's music they listen to. But for my aunt's son, so my cousin that she adopted, he was his handwriting was that of a kindergartner, I would say. He, I think, was on between like a 1st and 3rd grade level, depending on what subjects. And within 3 months over the summertime, he was on a 6th grade level. So, yeah, huge. Hi, Jackson. Hi. Yeah. You want the Talks Up? Okay, go take it to Daddy. He loves it. He asks for it. So, our unit here, we rent it out to different families and whatnot, just because you don't need it all the time, and they're so expensive. And no expensive, Jackson. And going through, I'm so glad like all the parents here get it, right? So
I mean, this is the reality. And
it is.
I watch your videos on Instagram. I watch your videos on Facebook. I follow your story, and even the Happy Mother's Day especially special
Oh,
mothers from Jackson.
yeah.
I mean, it was so sweet. My goodness.
Yeah, he is such a sweet kid. So we're lucky. He's at home with us all day. His teacher comes to the house and she's like a second mother to him. We're just like so grateful that we have him, and we both work from home for the most part, so
I
we can
bet.
keep him here. So anyway, but he's a really sweet kid. Anyway, there's my box. It's now empty. He took it.
He's enjoying it. So
So,
he's
but
asking
it
about
definitely, for
music and
some kids,
language development.
speech and language development, but it also helps with, definitely for her son, it made a huge difference with school, with writing. His handwriting, I would say it's pretty normal, maybe about a year behind, but pretty normal. Boys' handwriting is boy handwriting anyway, but it was really, really behind. So that's one thing we've done. Neurofeedback is another thing that we did. I would say we I used to do it in my office, and my husband does it as well. And I think that makes a big difference for parents out there. If you're going to do something like that, I would say definitely like 20 plus sessions. All of these other things like talks up and neurofeedback, for them
Can
to
you
be
talk
really,
about back what it is? Because not all the autism parents
yeah,
are aware.
yeah, of course. Thanks for reminding me. So there are little electrodes that you put different places on the brain that help make new or help strengthen neurological pathways that maybe weren't formed or weren't formed well enough or were formed wrong, right? So when we look at something, we're like, oh, I can see the screen and I can touch it right here, right? And I know where to touch. Some kids are like, oh, I can't really see where to touch, or their perception's off, or they use it for a lot of different stuff. Like I've used it for anxiety, right? A lot of us moms out there have a lot of anxiety. Do we have more anxiety than most moms? Yes, probably. I'm going to admit it. So I suffer from some anxiety, which is why I've done lots of neurofeedback. But it's definitely helped our kiddos. So they look at a screen, which I'm not a big screen person at all. I don't like screens. We try to limit all of that stuff. All of our phones are password protected. They're locked. All of our computers are. But that's one thing we do give screen time for. It's about 30 minutes, and you play a video game with your brain. And so there's no controllers. You're playing it with your brain, and it's almost like a subconscious. So it trains your alpha waves to stay at a certain pattern, or at a certain, your brain waves to stay at that certain wavelength for you to be able to function, or for them to be able to function properly. So I know, like it helps a ton. So I've seen people use it for eating disorders, for all sorts of different things, OCD, for addictions, addictions to drugs, addictions to alcohol, soda, other addictions that we won't even go into. But anyway, it's really, really, really good. It's a brain therapy. But saying all of these like talks up, the neurofeedback, all of those different things, they're even behavioral therapies like ABA, music therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, all of those things. I've seen hundreds and hundreds and thousands of kids make so much more progress when they start to clean up their own environment, take the chemicals out of the house, the fingernail polish. Like I don't have anything in my hair. It just lays, it's flat. You know what? It's okay that my hair doesn't have volume to it, right? It's fine.
Talk about
it. Right? It's going to be okay. It's not the end of the world. If our hair isn't perfectly in place, and we all know our kids are going to mess it up in 30 seconds anyway when they run their hands through it, right? But so no hairsprays, no perfumes, no colognes. Your dishwasher detergent should be clean and free. Same thing with your laundry detergent. Your dryer sheets are one of the most toxic things we're putting on the laundry, and it goes on our kids' skin. So if your kid has eczema, and Jackson had bloody eczema, like we took him to the hospital. We went to so many different dermatologists. We finally took him to Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake City. We were visiting my parents one year because it was so bad. Like I don't even know what to do for all of this. This is like, I think he needs wound care at this point. And when we took him off of those foods, it was like his skin cleared up. I took him off of dairy. Dairy is the #1 thing that causes eczema. And I know a lot of your parents are like, oh my gosh, what am I going to feed my kid?
Yes.
So I think an easier way than just cold turkey taking it away is getting some, almond milk or coconut milk, and start to pour it a little bit in the jug, and then pour a little bit of milk out. and slowly, over the course of like 2 or 3 months, change the jug of milk, even though there's milk, it's a milk jug, but change it over to almond milk or coconut milk or something. Exactly. Right. That's exactly it. So their favorite foods, try to find healthier versions. I get it. If your kids only want to eat chicken nuggets and French fries, try to find, French fries without canola oil, without peanut oil, right?
Everybody wants the golden arches.
Yeah. Try to find, those things that out there are those substitutes, right? Like we cold turkeyed it, but it was a nightmare, and I had help too. And I realized a lot of other people don't have help, right? A lot of parents, are single parents and, don't have family that lives anywhere near close or don't have anyone supportive. So, I had my parents that both came in town. My siblings came to stay with me. My cousin lived with me and juiced for me every day, all day long, and changed diapers for me. So, she even got in hyperbarics with my kids at some time. So, I've done all these therapies, but realized like I've also had help, because I did one of these interviews before, and someone sent me a message and they're like, "You're like a super mom. I could never do that." And just realized I'm not a super mom. I have a lot of help, but go to those things and just check off the list. So I actually have on my phone here a list of things that I wanted to just chat about before I forget. When you go inside your house, here's one really easy thing to not bring a whole bunch of chemicals and pesticides in. Take your shoes off. Because when you're out, you're bringing all that junk inside. So that's an easy way.
From Europe, because in Europe it's a custom. Even in Asia, I think everywhere around the world except for America, it's a custom. When you enter someone's home, even your own, you take your shoes off and you put your slippers on.
Exactly. Yep. So that's one thing that really, 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 I think helps a lot. Or at least you're not going to add to the body burden, right? So getting out all the chemicals in the house. If you have questions on, I can't afford 7th generation. I was buying 7th generation. My sister came over and she's like, "Jeanette, seriously, I don't know how, you're so smart, but you do some really blonde things. It's a good thing, we're not like the rest of us." So she's like, "Take your lemon oil and put it in a glass spray bottle." So, and this is just like my glass drinking bottle, but she's like, "Just grab your little lemon oil, put a few drops in, and there you got it. You got your own 7th generation glass cleaner." And she's like, "Take this other oil and put it in there, and then you have like an all-purpose cleaner. So, and it kills bacteria." You know what I mean? So I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. I'm spending all this money that I don't even have at the point." You spend everything and then more. So, and just all of you guys out there, we went through medical bankruptcy. It was awful. It really was. But at the same time, I have my little girl back, and she's she just won a lacrosse championship. She got in honors English, and she had stopped talking. She was having seizures, and anyway, she's like my little mini me. If you look at my Facebook page or Instagram or whatever, you can see she's like I went to pick her up from school early yesterday to get her teeth cleaned, and the lady's like, "I have to see your ID, even though I know your daughter because she's identical to you." Anyway, but all of these things, it's so worth it to invest in your kids. That they can make so much progress, right? Jackson, he hugs and snuggles from him giving me. I couldn't walk. I couldn't go anywhere without someone saying or looking at me and whispering like, "That lady needs to get into a shelter." In fact, one time I was at the grocery store and this lady was following me around. Finally, I just broke down in tears. I was like, "My husband's not beating me. It's my son." And she looked at me and she was like, "Here's a card. You don't have to blame it on your son." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I just remember tears pouring down my face,
Yeah.
Because I was black and blue. And from then on out, I lived in Phoenix. I'd wear long sleeves because I looked like, I was getting the crap beat out of me.
I know.
Which I was, but it wasn't by my husband. So
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right? Yes. It's terrible. And Jackson, he doesn't have any of those behaviors anymore. None. He doesn't throw tantrums. And he's bigger than me, so I'm really glad he doesn't throw tantrums. He doesn't hit. He doesn't bite. He doesn't pull my hair. He doesn't pinch me. He doesn't, rip his sister's hair out. He doesn't. He's just so kind and so loving.
Where's the level dropped?
He was probably, it was probably a year. It slowly went down. You know, when his heavy metals were coming down, when the parasite load was coming down, when bacteria, all of these different things were coming down. The inflammation in his body, we were, you know, doing C-reactive, like doing blood tests to see what's the inflammation like in his body. When all of these things we were measuring on blood tests, a normal blood test your doctor can pull for you, right? All of these things, and then his CBC panel, which is your vitamins and your minerals, that kind of stuff, as that kind of stuff was coming up, your omega fatty acids. So we had all of the bad stuff going up or out of the body, and all of the good stuff coming up. It was somewhere kind of in here where it was like, okay, I feel like he's kind of crossed that point where his heavy metals aren't like off the charts, like he doesn't have lead poisoning, right? I mean, when I remember looking at the blood tests and the doctor's like, he has uranium poisoning, like off the charts, lead poisoning, mercury poisoning. What's going on here? And I was like, why are you looking at me like I'm poisoning my son? I didn't do this. And then realizing, oh my gosh, you know, another doctor, Dr. Stephanie Cave, put it all together. She's like, no, all of that he got from you, Jeanette, and a little bit from the vaccines. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. And that was just the loaded gun. But, you know, it was the bullet that hit, but the gun was loaded, right? So for a really bad.
Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, she wrote this book, Gaps,
we did the GAPS diet,
and it's amazing. And she described how women, you know, pregnant women who had tons of antibiotics in their life and basically depleted themselves of any bacterial flora, and they don't eat any fermented vegetables or anything like that. They don't drink kefir, or basically just eating standard American diet, let's say. Lots of carbs and sugar, not much good fatty acids. And then they give birth to a child, often via C-section. So the baby doesn't even have a chance to go through the birth canal and get all those good bacteria from the mother. So then the child is automatically depleted of those good bacteria. And then toxic overload comes, and we have what we have.
And no guilt to any of the moms out there. Like, I just got rid of the guilt. Like, how did we know? So don't have guilt over it. Like, let it go. Write it down and burn it, whatever you need to do to let it go. But just realize, like, it's not your fault. We didn't know. We're doing our best, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Probiotics. It's hard to get our kids to eat fermented foods. I totally get it. My kids do it now, but it's really, really, really a tough thing to get them to that point. So I have a powder form and an actual capsule form. Both of them are acid resistant. So they're going to get past your stomach acids down into the lower intestine where they need to be. And they're double encapsulated with the prebiotic, which is, you know, they have to have something to eat. So if you're interested, you can send me a private message and I can get you some of those. But the probiotics, I can send you some too, but probiotics are 80% of your child's immune system. And if you say, oh, my kid never gets sick, that's the worst. My kids never got sick. I never got sick, even though I was critically ill, you know, with kidney failure and liver failure, and I couldn't walk, and, you know, I couldn't actually move my hands like this. I couldn't even pick up Lexi when she was a baby because I was so ill, but I never got sick. Everyone around me would get the flu, and I'd be like, peace out, people. I don't even have the flu. I'm so healthy, even though I'm like so ill. But your body has to be healthy enough to get an immune response. And when I remember sitting in the doctor's office and I started to weep when she explained, you're not even healthy enough to get an immune response. Your kids aren't healthy enough. And she looked at me, she's like, can you see the list of viruses here that are in your son's body? And I just remember looking at it, and my eyes, I couldn't even read it. I was just weeping so much. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. I'm the worst mom in the world. She's like, no, you're not. So, and she had actually recovered her daughter from autism, and it's been over 45 years now, 40 years. She's now an attorney and an amazing woman. So anyway, it was the doctor's wife that we were going to at the time. She was a homeopath. Okay, so a few more things. vitamins and minerals, they're huge. Like to get the good stuff in, we need to be putting in good whole food based vitamins and minerals. Cod liver oil is huge. We were raw and vegan for a long time, actually like 4 years. And I'm just going to say, there's 10% of the population, and a lot of that 10% is us, our kids, and they need that cod liver oil, and they need the DHA, and they need it from an animal source. And I love animals. We had chickens, and they were like pets. Jackson loved his chickens. He would bring them in. He tried to sleep with them. We had to teach him not to bounce on the trampoline with him, but we love our animals. So, but I do think that for the health of your kids, you should look at some good oils. So essential oils are huge. I do make money off of essential oils. It's actually how I stay home with my kids. I do doTERRA. It's a network marketing company. So this is one like Digest, and it's a little one here that we keep around for upset stomach. So if anyone out there wants a consultation on that, if you're not like in doTERRA, you're welcome to reach out to me, and we can set some stuff up and chat. Just like, they're pretty cheap. They're very inexpensive compared to like, all the different things that you can do. And they're very, very helpful, like diarrhea, constipation, gas, bloating. Like if your kid's holding their stomach all the time or leaning over something, like Jackson was banging his head, but he'd also lean over something. There's gut dysbiosis. Yeah. There's mega issues with their gut that needs to be addressed. So
how can people contact
you? You can email me. So you can find me on Facebook. Do you tag me on this when we're doing this?
Yes.
Okay, and I'll comment below. You can email me. It's Jeanette, JeAnette @ The Natural Cure. Or you can send me a message on Facebook, Instagram, any of those things. So, and I'll type in my email below here too. So hyperbarics, we did a lot of IV therapy. And that's something that I actually continue to do. I highly recommend people see a really, really good Lyme disease specialist and get tested for that. There's a lot of kiddos out there that have Lyme disease. And a lot of the moms do too. One of the signs would be, a diagnosis of lupus, which I have, RA, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. If you have some of those autoimmune issues, it's a telltale sign. If you have a lot of nerve pain or numbness, things like that, it's a pretty telltale sign of Lyme disease. So a lot of tingling, like toe walking is oftentimes, if you talk to a kid after they're recovered, why did you toe walk? Well, it felt like pins and needles. It felt like dry ice on my skin. It was burning and freezing at the same time. That's a Lyme issue. So I did, actually I've been tested numerous times, and I came up negative, and I thought something's going wrong with me, and I'm still like, I beat all of these things. Like I don't have lupus anymore. I don't have thyroid disease anymore. I don't have Hashimoto's. I don't have this. I don't have this. I don't have RA. All of these things are gone. And there's still something not right. I'm still tired. There's still things that like, I get these numbness things, and I get these tingling, like some of those things I get, like, I can't remember what I walked in here for. I just have no idea. I'm like, what am I doing here, honey? Right. And I'm like, it could be the stroke that I had, however many years ago. But I just thought something's not right. So I actually took an essential oil blend. It's in a capsule. It's called On Guard Plus. And it's kind of like, it has antibacterial properties. So I didn't want to take an antibiotic, but I would say take an antibiotic and then go get tested. But not everyone has access to those. I personally didn't want to take them, even though I have them. So I took that, which doesn't, ruin your gut flora. And I went and got tested, and my numbers were off the charts. So like the doctor's like, I can't believe you can walk. I can't believe you can function. So, and I thought, that's probably because I drink vegetable juice and do oils and herbs and, all this stuff. I still do all of this stuff.
And it doesn't have to come from a tick, right? Lyme disease.
I've never been bit by a tick. It can be sexually transmittable, and that being said, like my husband doesn't have it, but it can be sexually transmittable, or at least he's asymptomatic. He has no symptoms, right? It can be from a mosquito. It can be from, right? And I've been bit by a mosquito a ton of times. They love me. It can be from a spider bite. I've been bit by spiders. They love me too. Oh my gosh, I wish they would quit loving on me. Anyway, so it can be some of these other things, right? So anyway, and you can also give it to your babies in utero. So I believe that's probably how my kids got it, was from in utero. A few more things here. So detox IVs, I'm not even going to go into that a lot. That's something you'd really have to consult with a doctor on. But like making sure your kids' vitamin D levels, like just do a CBC panel, ask your doctor for a CBC, make sure their vitamin D is enough, right? Like most nutritionists, most people would say between 70 and 80. If you look up and follow a nutritionist, he doesn't do a lot on autism, but he does a lot on cancer. Dr. Patrick Quellen. A lot of what he's saying for cancer is also what we need, like optimal nutrition. It's also what we need for, autoimmune issues. And a lot of our kiddos have these autoimmune issues as well. They're just not showing up in blood yet. But when they get older, it shows up. So, but they need optimal nutrition as well to help them recover. So, okay, CBD oil, it's great for pain, right? There's a brand, I have it in my purse. It doesn't have any THC in it. I don't want to walk around high personally. I don't want my son to walk around high. If that's what it took to help him stop having seizures, would I do it? 100%. Yes, I would. Because I would rather see him high than hit his head on the floor, on the concrete, right? Like I'm done, I'm over that. So like no judgment here for moms that give their kids brownies. I have no judgment on that. I send you guys lots of love. So if that's where you're at.
Send the brownies.
So we do like the CBD oil, 0 THC. If you want to know what brand, I have like no affiliate with that at all, but it's a gal that my assistant, her mom knows that lives out in like the Palm Springs desert area. So anyway, I can get you her info. The therapies, once we get like all the good stuff in and are starting to take the bad stuff out, the therapies, oh my gosh, they're amazing then. All of a sudden, ABA therapy starts to work and speech starts to make a difference. And occupational therapy and music therapy and physical therapy, all of these things pops up. And neurofeedback, they actually start working when we have something to work with, right? Yeah. So swinging, like on a swing set, it stimulates.
My Michael loves it.
Yeah, it stimulates the vestibular system inside the inner ear. And that's when a lot of kids actually start speaking. So Dr. Dietrich Klinkart, if you guys know him, he's a big autism doctor, also specializes in Lyme. And he's been on a lot of summits. He's running a huge thing over in the UK in a few months, but on chronic illness and things like that. But he prescribed Jackson swinging 30 minutes a day. And I thought, really? He's like, yeah, get him out there. Like, you want me to write a script for this? Put him on the swing set 30 minutes a day. I was like, okay. He's like, let me write a script. Does that help insurance write this off, Jeanette? I don't know, but he has to swing 30 minutes every day and, several times a day. So I was like, okay, 30 minutes, several times a day, like 3 times. He's like 4 times, Jeanette, get him out there swinging. I'm like, okay. So that definitely helped. Chiropractic, making sure your spine is aligned is fundamental. If you have a kink back here, this, your fluid's not going to be going through, your brainstem isn't going to be, right here's where your brainstem is. If you have a kink in your neck or in your back, you have to have alignment to have really good health. So I would highly, highly recommend finding a good pediatric chiropractor. Yeah, huge. So stem cells, we actually went to Ukraine and did the best stem cells in the world, still aren't available here, and we didn't really see anything at all. They were outrageously expensive. I know some people have seen stuff. I did it as well. I didn't see anything. Anyway, but I'd say that's something, like if you are doing all of these other things, or if you're like, I've done all that stuff, like I've been there, done that, I've been on this road for longer than you, then I would look at stem cells then, right? I'd look at it. So I look at anything that isn't going to cause harm that could possibly help. That's where it's at. So also getting rid of plastic, and you're like, maybe my kid drops stuff all the time. I drop stuff too all the time. When I have like numbness in my hands or like the little electrical pulses from Lyme, I drop stuff. So I kind of go in cycles. But anyway, it's good to just, slowly get rid of the plastic. If you have to go to a thrift store and go get some glass bottles, that's fine. Do what you have to do. It doesn't matter. Who cares? If our houses don't look perfect, you guys see that mess in the background? Don't look at my kitchen table, okay?
Perfect.
That's painting. That's painting right there. That is where Jackson paints every day, and he loves sitting right there. It overlooks the ocean there, and he loves to look out there and get sunshine. So, anyway, I don't know what else I can say to help all your parents, but just realize like all of us are in this together. If you guys have stuff that I didn't mention that's worked for you, please, please, please reach out to me and tell me. We're still on the uphill road with Jackson. And, there's times where I get really depressed and I reach out to friends. So if you don't have, friends in the autism community, reach out and, realize like we are all in this together. We're all doing this. We all struggle with the same things. And for all you single moms or single dads out there, I just send you guys all, like lots and lots of extra love out there. So, anyway, reach out.
Those are superheroes.
You guys are my superheroes. That's right. So if you guys need help, feel free to reach out. So I don't get back to people immediately. I'm just going to be honest. I don't always get back to people immediately, but I do get back to people. So
that's my guilt as well.
Yeah.
But I think other autism parents understand our situation, and they don't expect immediate response. But if you could go through some of the comments and questions that people were posting, I didn't post all of them, and just to reply, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
and
I definitely
like you said, if anyone would like to help you as well, because you're a stay-at-home mom, I am as well, to help your business, to reach out to you, reach out to Jeanette about the doTERRA essential oils, and she will hook you up.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, and there's a ton of recipes. So I forgot to mention the naturalcure.com. I have a ton of recipes on there that my kids eat. So I know picky eating is a huge thing, right? So getting like rich, nutrient-dense food into our kids when they do eat. I posted a lot of recipes on there. So I think on the main page, you'll see a picture of my sister and I. She lived with me for a while. She came in and helped me. So anyway, there's a place where you can go and just check out some other healthy recipes. So they're fairly simple. You guys, I'm not an elaborate person. They're fairly simple. They're things that I like. They're things that my kids like. I like chocolate. I make chocolate like little balls, right? And I dip them in, I roll them in coconut flakes or roll them in hemp seeds because those are good for the brain. So anyway, thank you so much for having me. I love this. It makes me so happy to just be able to share with other parents, and it just totally fills my soul. So thank you. Thank you.
I think it was amazing. And I know that people will have tons of questions because, not only from mom's perspective, but also from ND's perspective. And with your experience and expertise, I'm sure you can help a lot more than I could. But like you said, combine forces. So if anyone has any questions, either ask Jeanette or ask me or reach out to other moms out there who went through this road already. And it was awesome. I hope I can have you again and we can talk more about different therapies, specific therapies.
Yeah, I would love to. Totally love to. So
thank you so much, Jeanette. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.